Next, we headed for Kensington Palace, a family home of the ruling monarch, to find the other statue. So here we are at the Queen Victoria statue, also in the park. This one is interesting because this was not made as a memorial. It was depicted during the Queen's lifetime. It was made in 1893, which was, very much toward the end of our story. And it was designed actually by Queen Victoria's daughter, this was the Princess Louise, who was, a fairly celebrated sculptor in her own right. And she was persuaded to anonymously enter a bid to design this sculpture. It was kind of an open bid process for this. And she submitted anonymously, and her model was selected. And I think it's really notable to think of this as, an image of a mother through a daughter's eyes.
You may as well be her lapdog.
She has need of me. I have no choice.
Like a lot of the time when we see images of royals, it's entirely through the lens of, their role in history or their social power or something. But it's kind of neat to think of this as somebody who had an alternative way of looking at the Queen. And I also think it's striking that she chose to depict her at her coronation at age 18 as a young woman, even though this was made toward the end of Victoria's life. And it's a relatively, there is a majesty to it, but it's a relatively human depiction. Like, she's not necessarily, sort of garbed in the clothes of the Empire of England.
Governor's girl.
Hero's wife.
Daughter of Empire.
I think it contrasts interestingly to the memorial in front of Buckingham Palace, which was commissioned by, one of her other children, then King Edward VII. And that's all about the power of empire. It has Regina Imperatrix carved on it, and it shows all of the different, symbolic images of the wealth and power and majesty of her role. But this one just, it focuses on a fairly human depiction of the Queen.
But enough of this. What do you want?
And I think it's neat that outside of Kensington Palace, which was a place where, the family lived, where Princess Louisa lived, there's this relatively human and modest depiction of her mother outside. And if you'd like to see how the royals factor into our latest story, Fallen Women, you can watch the whole show here on our YouTube channel, @Mrs. Hawking.